Raid on the U.S. All right, now, Attorney Percy King coming to you, and I'm going to do a sort of a public service announcement. This is about the President Biden loan forgiveness for student loans. So many people are up in arms about this to the point where I felt the need to say something about it. First, we have to explain to people what it actually is, who actually benefits from this. Now, for the most part, everybody does benefit from it, whether or not you get forgiveness or not, because in helping the middle class, it's going to help people both above and below. Now, what you have to understand is that unless you make less than $125,000 as an individual or $250,000 as a married couple, if you're not below that, you don't get anything, okay? So the people who do fall into that category, what happens is this, okay? You get $10,000 worth of loan forgiveness. Now, however, if you qualify for a Pell Grant, now that's for only undergraduates, then you'll get up to $20,000 worth of forgiveness. Now, most people who have graduate degrees have $100,000 or more in debt. So for most people, it won't do very much. But what it will do for some people is that it may knock their credit up just enough so that they don't have to pay as much for credit. That's a good thing because that actually will help businesses. So for some of the businesses who are talking about, oh gosh, these business owners, oh, it's terrible. We only need to look at the fact that it actually is likely going to help them. And then we look at the fact that there's so many people talking about this who really shouldn't have anything to say about it. So we're going to go and look at all of the people, the business owners who qualify for these PPP loans. You could have been anybody. As long as you had a business, you could have gotten it. Now, as far as the amount of these loans, they went all the way up to $10 million. And from the last report that I have right here, it said that some 707 different businesses actually qualified and received the full $10 million. And out of that amount, 625, I believe, have either been partially or fully forgiven. Now, what you had to do is use at least 60% of that money within a certain amount of time for payroll. Not all of it, but at least 60% of it for payroll within that certain amount of time. Now, you say that a lot of these business people who are on the news talking about, oh my gosh, you shouldn't get a handout, all these different things. You should pay back whenever you have a loan. Yes, these very same people didn't have to pay back their loans. Now, they'll argue that, well, I saved your job. No, first of all, that saved your business because you, just like when you said that, well, they took out this loan and they should pay for it, and they knew that they were going to have to pay for it, and if they didn't have the ability to pay for it, they should have taken it out. Well, you really shouldn't have taken out that loan if you couldn't pay for it. All right? You should not have done that. And you were responsible for paying those people. So you shouldn't have hired people that you couldn't afford to pay. Now, you say, well, nobody knew there would be a pandemic. Well, that pandemic affected everybody, including the student borrowers. Okay? And you knew that something could possibly happen because things happen when you have a damn business. That's just what happens. So you did it. You were able to get money from the government, but I guess nobody else is supposed to. Now, you also look at the rich and wealthy who greatly benefited from Trump's tax plan. Now, when you look at that tax plan, there's a lot of people who, when they've looked at it, they realized that it was likely the greatest raid on the U.S. Treasury in history, with the upper echelon of earners getting most of the benefits. In fact, when I looked at a study, and it's great that I actually have it up, it was based upon something from the Center of Budget and Policy Priorities. And one of the things that it said was that basically 83% of all of the monetary benefits from Trump's tax plan went to the top 20% owner of earners. So what does that mean? That means that 80% of the people only got 17% of the benefits. All right. It even goes and explains how the top 1%, now those are people who actually earn over $1 million a year, they saw their after-tax income go up 14.3%. Now, the top 0.1% of earners, which is people who earn more than $4.8 million a year, theirs went up 14% similarly. Now, people who were in the middle class, not the full middle class, but middle class as they put it, which was, I believe, a little over 53,000 to just under 90,000, they saw their after-tax income go up 1.5%. And people who made less than $27,000, they saw their after-tax income go up 0.7%, 0.7. Now, some of us who didn't fit into any of those categories paid more in taxes. So how could that possibly be fair? So to the extent that you're talking about, oh, it's not fair, that just doesn't fly. And now there's another category of people who are talking about it, people who have paid off their student loans. Good for you. This, if I can't get it, nobody can get it, is ridiculous, especially being that you sit and you say nothing when things happen for the rich and wealthy, and they're able to take advantage of things that you are not. You sit back and you complain about for a second and you say nothing. However, when it comes to somebody in your same class who you believe that you have the right to say something about because you're not looking up and you're not arguing up at them, you have not accepted that they can get something that you cannot, while you have accepted that the rich and wealthy can get whatever they want. At some point in time, you have to realize how stupid that is, how selfish that is, and how ridiculous you sound when you say, well, I paid mine, you should be able to pay yours. Great, you were able to pay yours. And whether or not I fall into any of these categories or not, I, just like you, should recognize that helping people is the thing that should happen. You're not going to have to pay into that. It's not, oh, it's my tax dollars. Your tax dollars are going to be gone anyway. It's going to go to something. Why not allow it to finally go to something that's going to help somebody that's just like you? It's quite ridiculous how easy it is for both the media, the rich, and the wealthy to make you argue amongst yourselves. How easy is it that they can just say something that doesn't make any sense, especially when you have readily available the information to you that states that, it shouldn't be a big deal about this. It's not fiscally irresponsible. It's actually being responsible. He didn't relieve more than $10,000. There's some people who are $10,000, they were $10,000 away from a better life. And then there are a lot of people who that $10,000 may make it, as I stated before, that their credit rating goes up and now banks can't charge as much to them. So are some people mad because these people will have a little bit of relief? Or are you really mad because you truly believe that nobody should get anything? And if that's the case, next time something comes up for you, don't accept it. Say no, nobody should get anything. So for the people in the cheap seats, meaning those of you who are basically on the same level, who could have benefited from this, but didn't because either you already paid off your loan or you just didn't go to school, you shouldn't be mad that finally something was given to somebody in your category. And it wasn't really given to them because for the most part they've earned it. They had to go back to school in order to better themselves. They weren't being lazy, okay? They got up off their butts and went to school so that they can actually make something of themselves. They should be applauded for it. They shouldn't always be punished for it, okay? When you go to other countries, it's either free or drastically reduced in most countries. That is an education. Whereas here, you go into debt and maybe never get out of it by going to get an education that is no matter how much you end up making, unless you make millions in order to be able to pay it off. And finally, for those of you in the really expensive seats in the boxes, based upon the fact that you keep raiding the treasury, you keep getting benefits, you keep getting bailouts, you keep getting loans, you're too big to fail because you've not done anything but broken the backs of these people. Instead of saying something, instead of just keeping your mouth closed, you all need to shut the fuck up. Have a good evening. Remember to like, share, and subscribe.